this was the first thing that we already talked about, where I think, or I said that Haunter going bottom is basically the only option that they have, right? Because if they have Haunter go up into top lane, they get into the siege scenario that they get into later, except they get it against the tier 3 turret, right? This turret still remains alive. Because then bottom lane, like, you want bottom lane to come down here, and then Haunter goes up here. Haunter shoves in the wave, but then Haunter doesn't threaten this turret that much, or at least not in a manner that can't be deflected against. And then Haunter plus Bjergsen doesn't threaten enough from this angle, like, to really do anything. Unless you make the argument that Haunter's just going to get the turret because Expect concedes it, but then I think that Expect is less important to the equation than Haunter. Like, if we compare what both of these champions mean to these team comps right now, Expect is infinitely less important than Haunter's Equalizer, right? From a runway. Do we agree?
I think that if TSM uses the Equalizer really well to push them off the tower, then definitely. But I think it just in general, like, Expect has so much engage potential that TSM gets super scared to siege if he's around.
Yes, he does have superior engage, but the Baron plus he doesn't have flash.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if we fast forward this to 41-25 or something, or like 41-35 or something, and the siege begins to occur in bottom.
Yeah.
You have to have had someone shove up this wave and make it go dark, right? But you can't do it too fast because then the minion suicide into the turret ends up being useless. So you have to hit it at a correct timing and then release the Baron buff on it at a correct timing so that it doesn't just funnel up into the wave and then die. The only person that can do that is going to be either Ivern or it's going to be Bjergsen, right? Because Haunter can't randomly come up here, shove the wave, and then run down through here, and then magically get to mid lane to tap it at the proper timing, and then walk his way down over here. He has teleport, but I think that's irrelevant because we're talking about, in order to properly crack the armor, I think that you need to have synergy across all three lanes. And that I think Haunter is too important to the equation to crack the armor in the final push. But I don't think that it's one final push like what the hell? All right, I gotta turn off Twitch alerts. I'm so sorry. So in that scenario, I think that because the end result is that they enter into the same siege scenario, pulling any attention away from this square of the map, right, relative to Elder Drake and then whatever, I think is more beneficial because they already have the Baron buff. So I think that a 3-1-1, like what you said, I completely agree with you. 95% of the time, you're absolutely right, in my opinion, right, that it is inherently worse on this color. I think that relative to everything going on in the game, like summoners, team comps, the Baron buff, and the way that the lanes look right now, I think 3-1-1 is the only option, right? We can completely rule out mid lane.
Yeah.
Like, we know that there's nothing to be done with mid lane. Mid lane requires, basically, mid lane is like a dynamite stick that you have to light at the proper timing, and if you light too early, it doesn't kill what you need it to, and if you light it too soon, then it doesn't kill, you know what I mean? So it's sort of like, it has to be clipped at the right time. So let's just go forward to when you... Alright, so here...
So because of all these things, TSM doesn't actually end up sending Rumble bottom. As soon as G2 saw Rumble pushing bottom, right after Baron was taken, and Rumble showed that...
See, this is that scenario. Where they shove the wave in, but they can't do anything with it, right? Yeah. And then you see what Haunter is doing. This is a blunder. Like, this is a blunder in itself. Now, the reason that it's a blunder is because we talked about earlier how what he could have done as an alternative is he could have tapped the wave with the Baron, sat away from it, right? So like the wave's here and then he's here, not doing anything, tapping it, letting it kill a certain amount and then leaving, right? And then that causes a stockpile ever so slightly as the minion waves keep colliding and stuff, you know what I mean? Yeah. To eventually break, like a dam having water flow through it. So anyways, the way that Bjergsen juggled this and the way that top lane juggled it with Ivern was an error.
Yeah.
Because look, Bjergsen shoves it too soon. There's no reason to do that. But he doesn't escort it. And even if you were going to escort it, there's no value to escort it at this point because Haunter ended up recalling, and now this happens.
G2 sends their bottom lane.
Selfie? I don't know, I just heard a door.
Full waves of Baron powered minions for TSM. And so TSM's already used up a minute and a half.
Okay.
Half of their Baron.
So now Bjergsen's holding down mid.
And G2 is just giving it to them because
Now, this is where there needs to be a handshake. I feel like there's one of two potential options. They're going to capture the turret, right? But they have to time the speed at which they capture the turret with this minion wave. Because, like I said earlier, it's all a part of the equation, right? This wave is vital because this is their dam. This is the dam that's going to have the water break through it and then fucking flood G2, right? Hanser and Bjergsen need to do this perfectly relative to the speed of these two waves. If they miss, then it's sort of like the analogy that we were talking about like 20 minutes ago, the spinning blade.
Yeah.
Where they have to then dance for it.
a good amount of time. And now
Right.
to
Yeah.
adjust their base because now they have
So like see right here? See that push?
Yeah.
That didn't need to happen.
No wave top.
There's no wave top, but then Hanser's positioning's an error. The speed at which Bjergsen tapped is an error. They had to come in at a timing where G2 can't react without being out of position. And then Bjergsen and Hanser need to be in harmony to get the equalizer to zone with the shock blast, and then they need to sacrifice to raise the turret. Like someone needs to just sacrifice to raise the turret. Like the equalizer isn't used for fighting purposes, right? Because they have a relatively healthy Baron duration. Right?
Yeah.
any sort of
So because of that, they can then wait for the pulsate out of the three waves. And then they have to correctly line up their champions to do the same exact thing to escort the three into the top base while making it impossible to respond to mid and bottom without mid or bottom being able to swing, without mid being able to swing to bottom and without the three here being able to swing to mid relative to the minion waves that'll be incoming.
Mm-hmm.
Is this making sense? Are you like seeing this in
Yeah.
your head? Okay.
Yeah.
vision that TSM can get.
So this isn't necessarily G2 having a perfect defense. TSM's fucking up. There's like stuff that they can do to get through the spinning blade and they're not doing it. But they're not doing it because, again, it requires them to be in harmony. Like 5 people understanding the wave tap.
Only worry about getting flanked.
Yeah.
And now they do this.
It's really easy.
And like what is this? What is this? And what is this? What the hell is this?
Yeah.
Like what the fuck is going on? You know, you can't have these waves crash in because like let's say that this wave, right? I'm just gonna use arbitrary numbers right now. Let's say this wave crashes here at 20, right? And then this wave crashes at 2017. Well, it doesn't matter because the time it took to farm this wave, clear it, and then move to this wave's location is too much.
Yeah.
Like it allows for response, right? And then it doesn't matter that this wave then crashes after at 2030 because again they can react to it. And then you have another wave follow that up in top lane and it doesn't matter because you're just juggling. And it looks like from I think a spectator standpoint, oh G2 has this immaculate defense. The reality is that TSM is not doing stuff that they should be with the minion waves. And I think that honestly at this stage of the game, that is the hardest thing in League of Legends. Is like Baron wave manipulation at critical game point. Like 40, 50 minute. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Do you have anything to say on any of this?
So, do you think that at any point, even though TSM set up the waves as they did, so a couple seconds earlier, TSM's wave died top first, and then Hanser had like a pretty big wave bot, and Bjergsen was pushing up mid. Do you think they could have rotated with the two people who were mid and gone straight bot while Caitlyn was defending top and maybe done something, or was that not an option for them?
Well, I think the error starts here, right? At 39-25. This is where the first error occurs. Okay? Because this is where the wave that's leaving... Watch. Ready?
G2 will have to show because TSM's going to have the tower
This wave.
to the mid.
Right here in mid.
And G2 doesn't have any global ultimates like the Talia or Shen.
Right? Why is Bjergsen here? Bjergsen does not need to be here. Bjergsen should have been in front of this wave, right? He's not at risk. He has his acceleration gate, he has Storm Raiders, he has Exhaust, he has Flash or something. And it would honestly, because of how their team comp is, they can't just kill him. It's not possible, right?
Yeah.
He should have killed this entire wave and then made this lane go dark, and then he escorts up to top lane to unite, right? That means that the next incoming minion wave, the one that'll leave these nexuses, this will then move up at the timing where he needs to escort it relative to what Haunter can do.
or Croissant can rise
Does that make sense?
Yep.
to rotate. So they can't make a pick on Rumble and still defend their base without them losing a bunch. They also don't have people. Yeah, Oriana and Caitlyn can't really chase that effectively.
So that's an error by Beard.
Yeah.
So because of all these things, TSM doesn't actually.
Because it's not about just farming the wave or Gragas eating the wave, because I'm sure that most people would see it as, oh, it's the same exact thing. No, it's not. Bjergsen could have been top lane right now. Bjergsen could have threatened Sven. Sven might not be recalling right now. You know what I mean? Like, Nunu has more attention up there, Oriana's up there, etc. And this lets the pressure from the mid wave and the bottom lane really start to add on, right? Because it's going to be like a floodgate.
Right after Baron was taken and Rumble showed at like 39 and 10 seconds. G2 sends the bottom lane top side and they clear out 2 full waves of Baron.
This is one of the clear-cut errors. This should never happen.
And so TSM's already used up a minute and a half, almost half of the Baron. Just getting
So now they're going to go up.
because this mark sleeping and they moved.
Now, you see the size of the wave in bottom. You see that Haunter already has death cap, right? Haunter shouldn't
Yeah.
be dicking around where he is right now.
Taken and Rumble actually end up they end up sending Rumble bottom. As soon as G2 saw Rumble pushing bottom right after
Now
Baron
this was good. He let the wave sit, and then he does this.
sends the bottom lane.
Places a ward here, right? He could have placed the ward there, and then he could have just ran like this,
Yeah.
right? And then he unites with Bjergsen. This wave is still a dam. It's gonna break. Like eventually, but they can't use it yet. There's absolutely no way, because the rotation that we talked about earlier, like 3 minutes ago, where this tower is destroyed and then they do the loop-de-loop and they do 2 people bottom, right? That can't come if all 3 of the inhibitor turrets are up, because it changes the way that G2 can stand, or it changes their stance defensively. So Haunter should already be up there with Bjergsen, right? This incoming wave is right here.
So TSM's already used up
This wave should go dark. Like, because Bjergsen and Haunter should be able to just be together, right? And again, because of the dynamic of G2, they can't just magically go on Haunter and Bjergsen. It's not possible.
a minute and a half, almost half of the Baron. Just getting this 2.
Makes sense.
G2 is just getting into them.
Alright.
That's a smart decision.
So now, that wave would go dark. Look at this wave, and look at this wave. Okay?
Yeah.
This is where Haunter and Bjergsen stay away from this wave and wait for it to get here. Alright?
Yeah.
Now, this was raised too quickly. This was actually destroyed too quick. So this is also another error that we can look at. Okay?
Okay.
Haunter and Bjerg should be here. This lane should be dark. Alright? The incoming wave then goes up. Haunter and Bjergsen are here. As this wave is going to pass, like, right here or something, right?
Yeah.
They go up, shockwave, zoning equalizer, shred the turret.
Okay.
That has to be the play. The equalizer is not meant to kill. They're not looking for a team fight. They're not looking for any of that because their Baron is still healthy. While all of this is going on, if Expect is in top, right, despite Haunter casting the equalizer, this wave has crashed onto this turret. There's no response. They're not allowed to respond because Haunter and Bjergsen are threatening mid. So they're forked. It's like in chess. Have you played chess?
Yep.
Okay, they are checked, right? So they're checked in top lane, and they have to, well, they're checked in mid lane. They have to concede their bishop in top, right? Now, magically, bottom lane is like your queen, and its attack, it's like it's a multiple fork. Now, if they're all up here and they're in a stance, Haunter even has the option to teleport onto the turret. Because with this size minion wave plus Baron buff, his auto attacks are just going to shred the turret. Expect can't respond. It's not possible. Right? Mid unites at the exact time that TSM is then able to tap down into mid. So the assault continues. So now G2 are stuck between a rock and a hard place because they're being forced to juggle 2 points rather than being able to juggle 3. Because of that, the floodgate opens here, floodgates opened here. Now the pulsating waves that are all perfect, because all of these waves have been destroyed, right? These have been cleared out. Everything resets. Elder Dragon's still going to be the next dragon. So now they have 2 open inhibitors, and now they can execute a 3-1-1 again, but it's not going to be like a 3-1-1. It's going to be like a 3-1.5. You know what I mean? Like, he's dancing between 2 areas.
Yeah.
Because they have to use the dance with the equalizer as utility, not as fight. All right? Because they're fighting against Expect's teleport and Expect's flash. That make sense?
Yeah, makes sense.
Can you visualize all this in your head?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
And now they're retreating to
So all of this is an error. If they did that, this just gets raised, right? If the shock blast equalizer comes out, this is irrelevant, right?
Yeah.
You summon Daisy, the wave comes at a proper timing, you sacrifice one member if you have to. You know, you call down AoE Redemption, Solari Locket, you just get the fucking turret.
Yeah.
Right? Haunter, if G2 wants to make a stand, then Haunter teleports bottom. Orianna's not allowed to be here. If they did everything that we talked about earlier, Ori can't be there, because if Haunter was in mid, Gragas can't just defend. Because Jace hits the tower, Gragas can't do anything. Gragas needs someone else to be there.
Yeah.
Right? Because ranged plus melee. Alright? So now Haunter teleports bottom, no one can respond to it. TSM goes disengage mode. Right? They have Jace acceleration gate, they have Zyra ultimate disengage. G2 can't chase because Expect doesn't have flash, he doesn't have teleport. There's no way. One tower secure. They run down. Right? They can run down like this. Right? They unite with the next wave. Okay? That'll be coming up mid lane. Haunter shreds this turret. Because of the Baron enhance. Right? They run down to now try to deal with Haunter. Haunter backs off. Guerrilla warfare. Okay? Now they have 3 waves that are going to be pulsating out of their base. Elder Dragon is still going to be coming up. Now they do a reverse 1-1-3. Right? But it like I said earlier, it's not going to be like a 1-1-3. It's going to be like a 1.5-1-3. Because of the same dynamic. Right? Now at this point, Haunter's threatening a lot more because now Jace can escort up into top, and then it's the same thing. Melee plus ranged, right? It's like Ryze. It's very similar to Ryze. When Ryze split pushes with like a Poppy or a Maokai, Ryze autos the turret or Ryze threatens it. So now if Bjergsen keeps making and guaranteeing the lane goes dark, he unites up top with Haunter, threatens the inhibitor. You can't just send Expect. You have to send someone else. The problem is that if you send someone else, this is wide open. And if this is wide open down in bottom lane against the Zyra, the Varus, and the Ivern, G2 doesn't have the angle to deal with it. So what eventually ends up happening is it's like a boa constrictor where they suffocate these 3 lanes and they threaten inhibitors, even if they can't secure them, because then it would require the equalizer, shock blast, like gateway thing, zoning, to try to get a inhibitor a la like fucking Weaver's Wall. Right? The equalizer has to become Weaver's Wall in a way.
Yeah.
And it clearly fucking is because it's Leandri's Void Staff Death Cap. Like that's a very scary thing. I don't care how much MR you have or, whatever. So all they have to do is keep that dance and suffocation up until Elder because they can't lose the fight with Elder. And once they have that, the entire map is dark because they've been suffocating it for like multiple minutes, right? There's absolutely no way that G2 has any sort of vision, any sort of knowledge about, what's moving onto the map. So now G2, they have to enter into the, the fog of war with darkness, which means they're committing wards not to the fight, but just to get to the fight. So then they're empty, they're depleted on wards. So TSM has the, they have the advantage from defensive Varus. Like if Varus is inside of the river, how do they get through this? It's like the movie 300. It's like the Strait of Athens, right? Meanwhile, there is waves pushing in top and bottom that TSM has the luxury now of knowing that they're on the inhibitors. If G2 botches the fight, they lose the game, right? And they're being forced to funnel in narrow corridors against a Varus, Zyra, and Rumble.
Yeah.
It's a checkmate because they get the Elder Dragon. Using the Elder Dragon, they do the same exact thing, except now that Weaver's Wall is not a Weaver's Wall, it's a Donald Trump wall, okay? And G2 is not getting in. So then they get the inhibitors, they do the same exact dances again, they get the Baron, and then it's lights out. It's a very long dance, but it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Do you have any responses to this?
So just to clarify,
If
when
we
you
go
say
step by step.
pulsating waves,
When I mean pulsate, I mean that 3 waves are moving and are expected to move at the exact same time.
Yeah. The one thing that I do think I definitely think that Haunter should have been able to move mid and then go with Bjergsen to pressure the top to just raise the top tower. At this point,
Right
though,
here.
or yeah, right around here, I think that
This wave, this is the wrong wave, because the errors that Bjergsen's made. But not only just Bjergsen, top 2.
Yeah.
Right, because this wave is ugly. Not this wave, but the state of the lane. But go ahead.
Haunter here is right to leave the wave, but his mistake is that he doesn't join Bjergsen mid
Correct.
at this point?
Yes.
Okay.
Because with the wave being at this point, right, and you know that it pushes in, they can't send anyone to go get that. It's not possible. If Bjergsen and Haunser are right here, they have to keep a ranged champion here, because otherwise Bjergsen just autos the turret.
I would say though, even I definitely think that G2 can't clear the bot wave once it crashes and once it like overflows like the dam, but I don't think that the waves would be enough to bring the tower any more than maybe like 60%. But G2 would definitely be threatened in top and mid. Unless they found some way to.
You mean the raising of this turret?
Yeah, I think they would be able to break that tower. I think that the bot tower would just be like largely safe, and then they would clean it up later.
So right, shit. Sorry, epic pen. So like right here, they'll get this turret, right?
Yeah.
They'll move on to this, and then we're 40 minutes in. They don't have a Mountain Drake, that's true. They do have an Infernal. I guess that's valuable, right? And they have the Baron minions. If they crash all at once with Ivern, Daisy, Redemption, Locket, and they make it a suicide run, they can lose one member. They're allowed to, because Elder's not coming up relative to the respawn, the death respawn, right? And there's no area of the map that G2 would be able to secure or fortify within that death timer that TSM wouldn't be able to recapture, right?
Sure.
So if Haunser, Bjerg are here, and then they demand the attention, no one can come bottom, right? So with Haunser having teleport, he can teleport on the minion that the tower's aggroing, and then boom, to the entire wave. That's a shitload of damage.
Yeah.
With his auto attacks, with so if they are in mid, this is what I love, by the way. So let's just fucking talk about it. If there's something I'm not understanding, or so like right here, right? This wave is already an error. We already established that this wave is an error. Haunser comes here, Bjergsen comes here. Someone can't go to bottom, right? The top wave was messed up because see Zyra and Ivern, right? This was messed up like 30 or 40 seconds ago, okay? So if Haunser and Bjergsen are here right now, and then they use the wave, right? And then this incoming wave, they crash, they kill the turret. Haunser and Bjergsen deny this. This wave goes and joins the glob, right? And then there's an incoming bottom wave that comes up, right? Eventually, no one can respond to this, so G2 is forced to have two here, and then they have 3 top, right? Eventually, Bjergsen and Haunser move up into this little nook and cranny, and then, you cast the 3 brushes or whatever the fuck you want to do. The Baron wave comes up, and it goes forward. You just unload. The Equalizer, Zyra ultimate, Shock Blast, you get them off the turret, and you have Jace, Zyra, and Varus auto the turret. You're not intending to fight, right? If G2 comes on to you, you disengage, right? Haunser backs up, Haunser teleports bottom onto the turret, gets the turret. So that's way too many Baron minions. I don't think that there's any way that G2 can react to that, right? Because then mid-wave is still dark because of the time which they pulled the trigger.
Yeah, I agree.
Does that make sense? I'm not saying they get an inhibitor or that they win a fight. I don't think that they do. They might even lose a member. That's why I said it's a suicide run.
Yeah.
But I think that this is way over the head of most teams, macro-wise. It doesn't mean that it doesn't exist, right? Like, these type of thought processes don't exist. SKT or someone might not even do this. They might not, in their current level, be capable of that type of manipulation. But like we were talking about like an hour ago on the phone, it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist or that it can't be done, Definitely. It's like the StarCraft 1 analogy that I gave that, if you told a pro gamer in 2006 that there were better builds or that these builds were not good, they were not the best builds, they would just be like, oh, you're an idiot, that's what all the pros are doing, of course they're the best builds. And you just sort of like shake your head and you're like, no, there's better builds, but they require you to be better. They require like the execution to be so much more thin. I don't know, but I think that if you reach or if you strive towards this type of shit, you can't not get better, whether or not you can do it or not. Like, to attempt it is better than not attempting it. That's my opinion anyway. So I think it's a lot better than what the fuck they tried to do, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that because they were incapable of lane taps like this, I think that, yeah, G2's defense is perfectly, like, fine. I think it's actually very good. Yeah, that's an error. Like, see? It's too easy. Like, what the hell is this? This wave just died, and now you're gonna crash this? Like, you know that it's Caitlyn and Nunu defending this. Why the hell are you going around? You know what I mean? Like, why are you wasting time? This doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
What the fuck are they doing? Right? Look, this whole wave just died. Fucking play the Looney Tune music. You know, and they come up here, and now they're gonna tap this wave. What the fuck is going on? Don't talk like this, though, by the way, going forward. Reddit will fucking hate you. That's probably the best advice I can ever give you. They get red. I guess that's sort of okay, right? Like, getting red is not the end of the world. I mean, relative to the current state of the game. Ah, fuck. Oh, he paused for a while. Yeah, like, look at this. He can't do anything. Oh, man. And then Haunser blows flash.
Yeah.
Now, imagine if Haunser crashes this wave as top is on the like, they can't have this response. It's not possible.
Yeah.
But the wave could crash on its own. Like, if it was a gigantic wave, like I said, like, if Haunser had just, like, here's the 6 minions, right, in a line, or whatever, goes up to them, he stands here, taps them, lets them kill a few minions from the incoming minion wave, and then just leaves, you know, it plants a seed, and the seed's gonna erupt in, like, or it's gonna explode or grow in 2 minutes. That type of stuff's not happening in today's LoL. Like, sometimes it does, to a certain extent, but not, like, intentionally 100% of the time. Lane manip. And so now TSM are in a super shitty spot, and now, like, look at this. Fucking holy heaven. See that? Like, the speed? If these bonobos can't approach, and then there's a giant wave on this turret, that just goes down.
Yeah.
Because he hasn't even called down Redemption Solari. Like a suicide run. Like, literally, like a just hurling at the turret like a fucking, you know? A plane crashing into a building.
Here, I was actually wondering if they could go for a suicide run, if they just, like, tossed out Varasol before the Nunu even got close, and maybe stood a little longer there, because Kaylin and Ori are still pretty far.
Well,
But,
yeah, go ahead.
no, I was just wondering if that was an option for them.
Well, like, here's the other thing, right? Is, like, Zyra is absent here, too.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, like, imagine if Zyra's even here. Well, fuck, just have Zyra tank the aggro, right? Just cast a Zyra ultimate with your minions and get the turret. Call down Redemption and Solari. What sort of damage is Trick and Mithy gonna do? Nothing.
Yeah.
You know? Who cares if one member dies? That's, you know, a worthwhile trade, because G2 can't consistently make these trades. But, you know, what does Wild Turtle decide to do? Well, better back off. Turret's at, you know, 40% HP. Who cares if you die? Like, they still have minions, right? They're gonna get the turret.
Yeah.
Just get it. It literally doesn't matter. Bjergsen got chunked here, right? Now, imagine, again, like the scenario that I proposed earlier, where, you know, Bjerg is here, and then Haunser is here, right? And then there's the zone equalizer. And then there's the 3 brushes. Bjergsen runs up right to here, right? They're zoned out, because Orianna can't advance forward. She's not going to step on the equalizer willingly. And then Expect doesn't have flash or teleport. So now 4 members are autoing the turret. The turret falls. Maybe G2 tries to engage. As they do it, Haunter channels teleport on the minions that are on that wave. Now TSM wraps down as the minion wave is here. They unite with it. But as they unite with it, they leave Bjergsen to stay up in top. And now again, Expect is pulled at. Because who do you send now to deal with Haunter who's going to kill the turret? It's like a tug of... It's guerrilla warfare. Like, do you see a response to that?
No, yeah, I definitely think that even G2 has no options at that point.
It's checkmate, yeah. It's checkmate.
Yeah.
So TSM had checkmate in like 3 minutes, but they didn't see it. I don't think that they can end the game without Elder, but getting to Elder is checkmate, and there's nothing G2 can do about it. There's, like, viewing it from G2's point of view, there's nothing. They're limited by their team composition. Now, Reddit will try to tell me that, you know, there's something else they can do. You know, magically fucking Nunu and Gragas have Twisted Fate's ultimate, and they can teleport in behind and stuff, but there's nothing they can do. If TSM does everything right, the control is out of G2's hands. The most that G2 can do is what they did do.
Yeah.
You know, if TSM makes mistakes, they punish, and they try to claw their way back in. Oh, fuck. Do you want to keep playing the video? Do you want to talk about other stuff in it, or what?
The rest of it's pretty... After Haunter gets... TSM just recalls after this, and then they come back a minute later to try and siege on the bot tower, then Expect makes a pick on Bjerg, and then G2 just sets up for the Elder Drake as a result. And I think after G2 gets the Elder, and then gets Baron, because they got the Elder, then TSM's just lost the game.
Like what?
Pretty much.
What is this?
Yeah, I was super confused. Even right before this, like, Bjergsen actually walks around for 40 seconds, throws a Q out, kills a single caster minion, and then recalls.
Bless their hearts. So let me tell you, what I would do in a code, because, you know, I just asked you, do you want to keep going on the VOD? Most people would probably think that you watch the whole VOD and you evaluate step by step. I think that's stupid. I operate or think from the point of view that there's no point fixing problems when you can prevent them, right? So this whole scenario is bad. This is someone did something they shouldn't have. We should never arrive at this scenario. Now, the average go-getter, analyst, coach person would tell me that every single part is important and blah, 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 blah. I think that there is different levels of priority, and thus I don't agree that that sentiment is true when we have time constraints. Like, there's more important things to prioritize than talking about TSM at every single individual minute. Because if we could talk at TSM at minute 39, right, and prevent 39 to 46 from ever happening again 90% of the time, that's a victory. Then I feel like someone would reply, oh, but what happens if they get into, minute 43 or 44? So this is where my response to that is that I would not end the entire VOD. I would go considerably further to where they're in another hard place. And then I would evaluate like 1 or 2 minutes leading to that hard place, and then 1 or 2 minutes following it. And then through that, like, so here's the 39, right? We potentially prevent all of this, and then we go to here, and then we try to prevent this, so there still is a gap, but this gap is likely to occur in other games. And this gap will potentially be a deciding factor in other games. And when we're dealing with time constraint, it's irrelevant to talk about this gap. So then we go forward, and then, you know, we continue to do that. And you talk something right about the end, and then there's a big gap. If you do this throughout, I think, the course of a day or something, or, you know, hundreds of games or whatever, these gaps will appear, and they will be the majority. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So that would be my take on it. So, like, if we were to keep going in this, right?
Yeah.
this is where TSM, this is where things get really tricky, like for chess, like map movements, because TSM has botched the game,
Yeah.
and now it's essentially a nightmare with like what do they want to do.
I think the only thing that I think you're right that the VOD at this point is not really useful looking at. The only thing I would look at is how TSM sets up vision before the Elder Drake, because even though they botched the whole Baron play, and
Right here.
they didn't. Yeah, before that. So as soon as Hanser is dead, I think the best thing that TSM can do to salvage the situation is for Biofrost to place a pink ward, behind. Right around Try, next to the blast cone on red side, and then just look for a play end team fight with Scuttle Crab around the Elder Drake. But they don't take the Crab, which lets G2 kite back really easily when TSM does try to contest, and then they just have no way of actually threatening the Orianna and Caitlyn as a result. But yeah, so that was the main thing that I saw. Because, yeah, even though TSM botched the Baron play, if they get this Elder, then there's a high chance that they get the Baron, and they get another shot at going at G2's base. But, yeah, that was the main thing.
Okay, let me just look at it where, oh, Hunter dies right here.
Yeah.
Wait, what the hell?
Sorry, I skip around in the VOD.
No,
So
no,
right
it's
here-
fine. Yeah, this is like, again, look at mid, look at top. What are they doing?
Yeah.
This is that Jace Hanser thing that we talked about, but this is not the timing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, there's a time and a place for like, can I get your number? But it's not, you know, the opening line. Like, oh man.
That explains a lot.
So Hunter's dead. That ruins everything. And I really, really like. I feel like, to G2's credit, they were pinging the waves. Like, they knew what is happening.
One thing that I thought was interesting, it's kind of hard to see, because, like, God, this is really unlucky, because I skip around in the VOD, and then I have to tell you where to go for the timestamp.
I feel like
G2
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry. I feel like Perk should have hit his ball.
hit his ball where in the
Do you know
wall
about
next
that?
to the-
Yeah, on the wall.
Yeah, for sure. Perks missed a bunch of crucial ultimates this game, but he was fine for the most part.
Yep. I think if he hides his ball here, it's really sick.
But G2 actually sets up the wave 20 seconds before the Elder Drake spawns, and that builds into the wave like 4 minutes later that G2 uses to push on the top tower. So
I think everything here is sort of good by G2. The only thing is if they lose, then they lose off bottom lane. That's like the only gripe. Potentially, right? But if they win, then everything's like too perfect.
yeah.
Yeah, expect gets caught, equalizer comes in.
Redemption,
Yep.
2 lockets. And with the Nunu, he actually smites for like, or he consumes smites for like 2140.
Hold on. I actually didn't like watch this team fight out. What the hell is Biofrost doing? Okay. Yeah, that's I mean that's really hard. Like Ivern versus Nunu.
Yeah.
Let me just watch this one more time. So here's something. You can tell me if you think it's interesting. I'm gonna assume Haunter has an elixir here, right? I'm making that assumption. Let me see if I can find out if he does.
He does have one.
He does have an elixir? Okay.
Yeah.
So he has an elixir during this. So like, let's look at this move. Let's discuss the state of the board. All right. What if they lock this, right? Because this is just Elder Dragon, right?
Yeah.
Haunter goes in and out of vision, right?
Yeah.
They proceed to chase for a little bit, and then as this wave gets to here, and as they chase, Haunter TPs. If they TP, Bjergsen then eats this wave, they get themselves Baron. Because everyone has to react to Haunter. Right? So then TSM gets to burn on Baron. Haunter doesn't have to commit with the teleport. He can, depending on what happens with the chase and like what routes do people take.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because he can easily raise this turret. And then even if he would die, if he gets the turret and TSM gets Baron, that's a huge win. Because then when we factor in, you know, the recall timers, the state of the lanes, right? Because after Baron, this minion wave is what? It's going to be like right here or something? I don't know the exact HP values of those. Someone can easily come up to top lane, crush 75% of it, and then walk down, eat Gromp, recall. And then that wave is slowly pushing in. This lane is perfect, and then this is the only lane that G2 can do anything with. Does that make sense? Or does that, do you see that? Or is there anything that you're seeing?
That's pretty interesting for TSM.
I
think that they are a little bit in danger of, I mean, Sven Skaren just kills himself here, but if they do chase, then they'd have to just poke with Jace in the jungle while they're walking up towards the bot lane to try and stop Haunter. And I do think they have good Baron threat immediately. So right here, if they...
Like, Sven doesn't need to die.
Yeah, he just walks up, which is something that I was pretty upset about. But...
Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah. I didn't notice that Haunter could TP bot here, and that TSM could just send the rest of the 4 to just eat Baron real fast.
I'm wondering if they can even do something more. If Sven's alive, right? I'm wondering if Bjergsen can escort this wave all the way up, right? If Haunter's up here, commits with the teleport, and then runs down if they continue to chase. Because then what ends up happening is it delays the recall of everyone. Even further, right? And the delayed recall isn't just delaying the recall, it's eating away at Elder. So they'll lose the Elder.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if it really, it's like making an assumption. This is where stuff gets really tricky, right? Because we know that Jace can move this wave up. We know that he isn't necessary for the Baron, right? But like, if they take this route and they go like this all the way back up, this is best for Haunter. If they take this route and then Bjergsen turns here and eats this wave and then escorts, they can meet Bjergsen here, but at that point it's too late because the Baron has been raised. Bjergsen can then eat the last wave, make the lane go dark. One lane goes up into suicide, and then you'll have the pulsate. But then they can enter back into the same situation that they did 6 minutes ago.
Yeah. So if I were G2 and if I were trying to respond to a play that you're saying TSM could make, I would...
You can't send Mythy, you can't send Trick. You have to Can you even send Perks? Yeah, well,
I would send Perks to deal with Haunter because I think he can win the 1v1 and he has Ghost. So even if Haunter TPs, Perks can probably make it in time to stop Haunter with ult before Haunter can take inhib. And Sven can deal with the mid push, and I would say Trick just needs to be near Baron. And TSM doesn't have VAR Assault, so they can't engage on him. So he just flashes over and steals Baron whenever he has an opportunity to.
I don't think that Trick can deal with mid push and get past Bjergsen. They can deal with it. Like Sven and Trick can deal with it. I don't think they can push Bjergsen out. Do you know what I mean? Like, this is gonna get shredded so quick.
The thing is, if TSM rushes with, if Bjergsen pushes up mid, and if Sven, Turtle, and Biofrost go straight to Baron, then it's true that like TSM can rush it really quickly, but I think that Sven and Nunu, or like Caitlyn Nunu, has just enough pressure to walk through the Jace at this point in the game and push him away, and then Bjergsen's gonna back off, just knowing like he would play really cautiously here. I don't think he would like flash onto the Caitlyn or exhaust her and try to keep them. Okay,
good. But then I'll counter. We'll just keep doing this stuff, right?
Yeah.
So 46-21 is when I assume the wave is like gonna get matched by G2, right?
Yeah.
Haunser's state on the board is unknown, right? Because it depends, again, do they take this route or do they take that route? Or do they take this route and go like that? That's really hard to predict. Each one has its own individual answer, right? That we have to just sort of do mental like math in our head, like putting the pieces of the puzzle together. So if Bjergsen's here and Mithy needs a recall, that's guaranteed, right?
Yeah.
Mithy can't recall, or he can't touch down Fountain and be full HP until probably, I'm going to say 46, like 25, assuming that he's running away.
Sure.
Okay. So 46-25, he's done with the Fountain, he exits base after Baron would be dead, right? So he can't aid in this. So if Sven and Trick are right here and they push back Bjergsen, they're pushing into Fog of War. I don't think that's something that they'll do quickly, especially because Trick's wards are expended.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that they can push him back, but I don't think like too far back. I think they can only push him to the Fog of War. Like factoring in like human emotion and the fact that they can't know what's in the darkness. You know, you don't want to get fucking Varus ultimate or Flash exhaust by Zyra.
Yeah.
Because then the game's over.
Yeah. I was assuming that Varus ult, it's down now, but since it's so late in the game, it'll definitely be up by the time that TSM is trying to shred through the Baron.
Yeah.
So if TSM makes the decisive play, there's a good chance that they can keep Trick off of it.
Yep. Like that's an error. G2 should never be allowed to do this. Like Sven shouldn't be dead, right?
Yeah.
This should be a brush, or this should be a brush, right? Bjergsen should be able to tap here. Haunser taps here. Sven is killing these minions, right? Biofrost goes back and kills the minions. Wild Turtle stays on the front line with Bjergsen, who's dancing here, and Haunser here. They kill the minions. Brush comes up. They come here. G2's forced out. Alternatively, they dance with G2 for a little bit. Haunser backs up, channels the teleport as the wave reaches, right? Which it almost has. Channels the teleport. They begin to run to it with the Blood Boil. Bjergsen, Wild Turtle, Biofrost then begin to light chase as Svenskeren has probably successfully killed this mid wave, right? They light chase ever so slightly, and then they turn, and they go to the Baron. As they go to the Baron, Bjergsen remains in mid, escorts up with the minion wave, then he meets Sven and Trick right around here. Haunser runs backwards. Assuming that Perks and Mithy go on to the chase, right? I feel like that is the only like computer-like moves that can happen if we entertain everything that the champions can do. Obviously, there's going to be someone that's like, oh, but TSM's moving into Fog of War, so the same argument applies. And I'm like, yeah, but they're not really moving into Fog of War because from the moment that G2 enter this Fog of War, they have a limited amount of time before they're forced to reveal. And so if that doesn't line up, you know what I mean? So like if Perks enters Fog of War here at 4 minutes, right?
Yeah.
The next line of sight that TSM has is this, which if Perks is moving in a straight line, he enters at like 4:04. Then the next line of sight that TSM would have like right here or something, or right here, he has to arrive at 4x. If he doesn't arrive, then they know that he's turtling the brush. So it's using no information as information.
Makes sense.
Okay. I feel like TSM, they have all the cards, that they can fuck G2 with, but it's too complex for them.
Yeah. I think a lot of people didn't understand that, like, I didn't think that. First of all, my title was just G2 plays a perfect final 10 minutes, but the very first thing I say is like a near perfect final 10 minutes from their perspective, and it's kind of like in chess where if you're like 30 moves in and white is up like a bishop, then the white should be able to close out in like 10 moves without black being able to do anything. But if black plays optimally, I think they played optimally, and that's what G2 did in this situation. And then TSM just messed up.
Yeah,
So.
TSM dropped the ball for sure. It should also be noted that it's a lot easier for TSM to drop the ball. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's way harder for TSM to close. This actually goes back to the fucking thing I talk about with champions all the time, right? Like the Annie meme. I tell people to play Annie.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't miss a fucking flash Tibbers. Like,
Yep.
it is so much easier to pilot G2's comp than it is TSM's at this stage of the game.
Yeah.
We'll just play this out. Yeah, they have no idea what they're doing. Holy heaven. Yep. They forgot to move a pawn. They're gonna get backdoored. So sad.
Hanser's still walking in the mid lane.
Yeah. Like, what is... Wait a minute, hold on.
Hanser's going to get wraiths, I guess, for his next item or something.
Why did Hanser not go top and equalize it? Because if they equalize it, this is too far of a run. You know what I mean? Before TSM would be able to react.
Yeah.
But not only that, TSM can then manipulate mid and top if Hanser just eats that wave. Maybe they're thinking... No, they're on top of a ward. That's another gigantic blunder. Like, this is an inexcusable... This is literally like your back row, right? You have a pawn, 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 and then you have, like, the king.
Yeah.
They did not move the pawn up. That's literally all that this was. So they literally just got backdoor mated. If they just moved the pawn up, it's still a game. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
they're still... They should still be ahead of G2. Because it's so difficult for G2 to play without Expect having both flash and teleport. He needs both. They're so reliant on it. And we'll just watch the final fight. That was late as hell.
Yep.
But not only that, like, look at the synergy, right? Hold on. If Hanser was just there, they could have gutted the minion wave, all of their HP. They don't have an Ocean Drake. They're not gonna, you know?
Yeah.
Man. There it is, that wild turtle flash.
Yep.
I'll just watch the end. Where's my fidget spinner?